this is out of people's control, right? It was an unexpected event, but as a leader, we got to roll with it. We got to roll with it, and maintaining that positive attitude and maintaining, the direction for your team is going to be really, really important because, again, the attitude is everything. Very excited about this episode. So we are actually broadcasting through a webcast because of obviously the situation with coronavirus, and we can't roll the film crew. But this is going to be very exciting because this episode we're talking about something near and dear to me, which is sales, and specifically selling during this time and giving your insights. So why don't we dive in? I want to get a little bit of background on both of you. Marisa, maybe if you wanted to start with you, and Stacia, I'd love to hear your background, how you guys got into all this.
Absolutely. So Marisa Pensa, Methods in Motion, got into this because I attended a program from a company that was teaching sales training. And I just found it to be very non-techniquey and non-gimmicky. And I remember saying to my husband one night on the couch, and I was like, oh yeah, I called that company that has the sales training company. And I told him originally it was a franchise years and years ago. And I told him, I said, it's a franchise, no way. And I remember he said to me, he's like, why not? You'd be great at that. You should go for it. And it was because of his encouragement that really pushed me. And then so Stacia, who's on the phone, was on our line rather, was kind of like a mentor to me for years. And so anyway, so that's a little bit of background, but it's just non-techniquey, non-gimmicky, just a straightforward way to build relationships and grow your business.
And I'm Stacia Skinner, President of Creative Training Solutions. I've been doing this, let's just say, for a very, very long time. Marisa and I, kind of partnered together. We wrote a book together, which was a lot of fun, called Competitive Selling, the guidebook to proactive calling in a reactive world. And I think one of the things that we really bring to the table is, number one, is our passion, but number two is our reasoning and the way that we look at sales. We don't look at sales as selling a product or service, and I'm sure, Chris, you don't either. It's really about helping somebody achieve what they're trying to accomplish. We were hit with this very, very quickly with COVID-19. All of us were.
Yep.
None of us ever thought something like this was going to happen. And so with that, your whole thought process with sales has to change. Because if you're not in it to help someone and you're in it to sell someone, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to survive.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think you got to understand now, you can't be tone deaf, right, of what's going on. And so even in content that we're pushing, I mean, I think that the biggest thing, if you're leveraging social media or however you're prospecting, I've got a lot of clients that they prospect on LinkedIn and a lot of these other platforms, putting an ad there like buy now, buy from me at this point in time is a no-no. I don't, and it kind of gives me the chills when I see those things come in. It's like, if you want to sell, the solution-based selling is going to be the better way, the better choice, and education.
Well, I think right now, and Marisa, you can chime in on this because we're really talking about this a lot too, is there's three things that salespeople are really going to be responsible for in this time. They got to save the business. They have to sustain the business and hope for growth after this is done. You can't go in prospecting the old way. Prospecting today has some empathy behind it. And I think with this whole thing going on, I'm hoping that word empathy is finally coming back to sales. Marisa, wouldn't you agree?
Completely. And Chris, whenever we initially got introduced together and you're talking about prospecting to the CLevel or contacting the C-suite, that type of thing, one of the things right now is pick up the phone. and just simply leaving a voicemail. If you can take your existing accounts, and you may or may not know the CLevel, but it's a great time to even just take your existing accounts and just call to thank you. Simply call to be able to say, wanted to be able to follow up and see how you guys are doing. We would typically say that the 3 dead end openings are checking in, following up, and touching base. They're completely dead end. There's no value to them. However, in times like this, a checking in on you and having people hear voice to voice. I'm talking with so many people. They're working from home, and people are craving just conversation right now.
Connectiveness, connecting with somebody. Yeah.
Yes. And so voicemails are getting called back. Conversations are happening longer. Don't default to email. Pick up the phone and connect with people. I mean, heck, I even walk my dogs in the neighborhood, and the neighbor that was before it was a wave, now they're like lingering, and we're in conversation longer. So everybody's looking for that connection right now.
One of the biggest things too that I've got my sales teams working on is when they're connecting with people, specifically like on LinkedIn, take a video of yourself too and send that in the message if you're just typing a quick message. Yep. Because it's more of that connectiveness, and just like, hey man, just thinking about you, thinking about your account, just want to make sure everything's good in your company. If you have any questions, reach out to me, and just send that in a video format to them. Goes a really long way.
Oh, video is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, we're using a lot more video, and we actually embed it into our emails. But I will tell you, this is an interesting thing. I was talking to another cohort of mine, and he said, and I've been talking to some CEOs and all that, and I said, let me ask you something. I said, how many emails are you getting? He says, probably on average about 300. About every company is saying, this is what we're doing about COVID-19. This is what we're going to do about the coronavirus. He says, but I'm going to tell you something. The ones I remember are the 3 voicemails that I got from people asking, hey, are you okay?
Yes.
So pick up the phone.
Yes. Huge. And you find the blanket emails, it's it's like everybody's copying and pasting and putting the same exact thing. It's like, no. Why don't reach out and really connect with that person, because, understanding where they're at, I mean, it goes a really, really long way.
Well, and thinking about relationships, and Stacia, I know we talk about this as the breakup of communication, or the types of communication. So 55% of communication is body language, 35% is tone of voice, passion, 10% is the words you say. So we were talking about video a minute ago. When you send a video, even in a virtual selling environment, I've got body language, I've got tone of voice, and it's the words I say. So capturing video, utilizing phone, but don't just send an email. You're not capturing anywhere near the communication that you could, or the care or the empathy or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think now that we're on video about social media,
yep.
People that are pushing content, so people that are actively building a brand, building their own brand, and pushing content, it's more about adding value to somebody else. Now it's all about give as much free value as you can. So if you own a business or you're selling a product, do not sell your product, or don't even talk about it. Talk about value, how you can give that other person value, whether it's, it could be directly tied to your business or indirectly tied to your business. Just talking about leadership, or talking about, hey, I know there's a lot of, dark times right now, but in times like this, forces us to innovate, forces business owners to come up with better ideas. Let's get together and come up with great ideas together. Now, that person didn't sell anything, but he added value. It triggered an emotion that, could turn into something maybe one day, maybe not. Maybe it's a referral. Maybe they didn't buy from you, but you give so much good value and content that they refer somebody to you that buys from you, right?
Right.
And so I think that's kind of where we're at right now as a society.
Well, and I think one of the things, we use this. Well, I use this, as you see in the background of my video, that I have crutches, And the reason is I broke my leg about 11 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So before the coronavirus, I had to reinvent myself because I couldn't get anywhere. And so because of that, I am hoping because of boredom, we become more creative. You know, boredom breeds creativity. And that's what we need today in order to really show kind of what you're talking about, Chris, the value of what I really have to offer. And that creativity in the long run is what someone will remember versus that blank email that everybody gets saying, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is also just keeping our mind engaged in learning something. You know, there's three things that a salesperson can control, and that's the words we say. We can control our time, and we can control what we track. And sometimes our time is how much time we're spending worrying. And so that doesn't do us any good. So looking at, okay, where is my time going, and making sure whenever you're dialed into Stacia and I had the opportunity and honor to be able to be on a call with a manufacturer that they've got all European offices. So we had Italy, Spain. Sometimes it's overwhelming to think of what these countries have gone through even before us. But one of the things for them is the fact that they're engaging their mind, they're continuing to learn, they're continuing. I just kudos to them for being able to say, all this is going on, but I'm going to commit myself to continuing to learn during this time. And it really helps. And it helps push off the worry. And we call it awfulizing in my household. That's what we call it, is whatever's going on. And my husband, he'll make the worst possible outcome. So we're like, no awfulizing, and not doing the worrying.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is you know, your mindset. You know, having a good mindset, put the worries aside, stay focused, you know, and continue to keep driving forward.
But CEOs have to do that too, because everybody's looking at them as the example. And so the fact is if they're not doing the investment in themselves to do that, why would somebody else? It doesn't matter whether you're on furlough or not. I think one of the things that I really am I'm concerned about is we are at a point right now where we're kind of at a standstill, but we're trying to keep business rolling, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say that I'm just going to use June 1st because that's kind of where we're at, right? June 1st, okay, the floodgates open. If you haven't done anything in order to get things kind of stabilized during this time, I'm going to tell you, nothing's going to happen on the 1st. The 1st isn't really where it's going to happen. It's September when it's really going to happen, because you know what's going to happen. Everyone's going to say, "Ooh, don't call me now. I'm busy trying to get everything done." And then August comes, "Well, I'm trying to stabilize." Then September, they'll think about it. So the thing is if you're not doing anything now to keep that brain going, to keep the momentum going, I mean, even if you have a call, I did this with one of my my customers. One of my managers said, well, you know, now they're an essential company. And I said, well, what are you doing to pump up your team, you know, beforehand? Because you don't know, we talk about a fear spectrum, where people are on the fear spectrum. Are they high? Are they low? In the middle? And he says, well, nothing. We just kind of go to work. I said, why don't you do this? And you can do this virtually too, which would be awesome. I said, why don't you just 2 minutes ask, so what are you grateful for today? I said, if you do that, you're going to see, no matter how bad it is at home, it's going to be okay here. And just doing something like that, getting everybody on a virtual call saying, and what are you grateful for today? And you start your day that way, I mean, it can't be but positive.
It's infectious.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing that I think our teams, our leaders need to remember to do. Even though I'm virtual, I still need that human touch. and know that I'm okay with that company.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, communication. Actually, that's a pretty good thing, a good topic to kind of talk about. How can managers and people kind of keep their team in order in this virtual type world that we're at? What are some tips that you guys would think we could be doing?
Well, I think as we speak about what you can do in a multiple drip point with prospects and with customers, you can do the same thing with your team. So I would say get creative, bring creativity to virtual management. So number one, there's calls, voice to voice, break through the emails, send a team video. We're huge on video, and it doesn't have to be customers. You could send a good morning video to your sales team or to any team. And that way you're getting that face-to-face, you're getting the body language. If you know their home addresses, which you probably do as an employer, so if you know their home addresses, why don't you just pop a little, Stacia has a little sign behind her that says, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. You could send lemonade to everyone and put a little sign with it. So all kinds of things of just getting creative to have multiple touches with your employees and even just get the head check. Stacia, what would you add to that?
I think another thing is remembering to have them, a smile is infectious, right? Everybody, when somebody smiles, everybody smiles, right? And when everybody frowns, everybody frowns. And so the thing is that it's very important for leadership, and it's hard, and I got it. If you've got 5 kids in the background and you're trying to do work and you're trying to, even with those 5 kids, I think Jimmy Fallon is doing a hysterical job with his kids during his monologue. Yeah. I think it's a hoot. Mm-hmm. And it just brings it home. Yeah. And that's okay. In this environment, we need something to laugh at. We have to.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, making it, and I've seen some of these funny videos. Like I saw one with it was like a news reporter or something like that, being all professional, whatever, and his kid like opens the door and does this crazy little dance behind him, and then you see the wife like dragging the kid out. It was hysterical. It was just, and I think this is where we're at. I mean, there's nothing. This is out of people's control, right? It was an unexpected event, but as a leader, we got to roll with it. We got to roll with it, and maintaining that positive attitude and maintaining, the direction for your team is going to be really, really important because, again, the attitude is everything. And smiling and staying positive, looking for the opportunities, like we mentioned before. We're forced to innovate right now. We can't do business as usual. I mean, I'm hearing stories about, I've got a friend who's got a manufacturing company that was doing stuff for trade shows. Now they're manufacturing masks for nurses and stuff like that. They're changing their entire business model on the fly to fill a need and to keep people working. And I think focusing on those things, not the negative, is what we need to be doing.
Agreed. I mean, it's because it's infectious. And I think even for small entrepreneurs, getting with other entrepreneurs, having that virtual cocktail hour to say, hey, what are you doing? And what are you, there is nothing wrong with doing that and getting different ideas. This is the new normal. And who knows what the new normal is going to be after this? We don't know. It's an unknown. So let's take what we know, the present, right now, and work what we have and move forward from there.
So I think in building on that, as you were talking about managers and CEOs and what can we do, and even Stacia and I specialize, if I can speak, in sales management specifically and anything that drives sales. And so being able to take what we were doing before, like think about a ride along. You used to go, get into a car, be able to see an appointment, get back in the car, debrief, like you've got this whole day ride along. So how do you then take that to virtual? And sometimes that can be an extent of being able to join a web meeting You've got a lot more flexibility as a manager now to be able to look at it the positive, whereas before you could only cover so much ground because of the drive time in between.
Windshield time.
Now, yeah. So now as a manager, your ability to offer to join a sales meeting, what needs to be happening though, is making sure that the team and encouraging your team to be able to do virtual meetings. And I'd be happy to log on and be a subject matter expert or just share with them that I'm excited about the opportunity. But look at the positives, and all of a sudden, the things that you can do, you can still do a ride-along. I have a customer that calls it a virtual ride-along.
Right.
And so tap the virtual ride-alongs, then debrief from the ride-along. You're probably going to observe things that you would have never, and to your point, Chris, we're forced to innovate. So being able to see things and pick up on things and debrief in a more efficient way. So a ride-along that used to be an entire day could now be one call for 6 reps all throughout a day, and look at the amount of ground you covered.
Yeah. And talk about efficiency, right? This is actually forcing us, think about it, it's forcing us to, in this aspect of being more efficient, you know, because you have no drive time. That was the biggest thing, is like how many times like you can drive in an hour, 30 minutes in traffic, you know, to get to a sales call, you know, and you can only do so many of those a day. And we know in sales, you know, it's how many touches can you know, it's going to take 7 touches before somebody buys. Well, you can get through a whole lot more, and you can do it face to face through video, through a webcast, and it's making us more, and in the sales, at least in the sales department, it's making people more efficient.
Don't be afraid of the camera.
Yeah,
I think that's another thing. But the other, this is a question I think Marisa and I get a lot too. Is somebody will say, well, what if I have a camera, but my customer doesn't, right? Because there's a lot of, depending on what you got, I don't believe it, but let's just go with it for right now. And it happens where you have the camera and your customer doesn't. Highly recommend, because they can see you, get on camera. And that's the thing. You know what? You only have to be dressed from the waist up. That's all. You can wear your PJs on the waist down, as long as you don't stand up. You can be professional top, and you can play on the bottom. Doesn't matter.
Great.
But begin on camera, because again, you're missing a lot, like Marisa was saying. You miss a lot with, and that's something that your customers can see of how passionate you are. That, hey, I want to stay in touch with you.
Yeah, I experience it all because I'm obviously always on camera, but even like on corporate calls and stuff like that, I do have a couple of clients that are a little bit gun shy and putting the camera on. And this is obviously not my branding clients. These are just like, you know, tech people and people that don't really get on camera. But it's funny because the first thing you say, oh, I noticed you changed the background, or you're in your office, or this or that, you know, and it's like it's important. People really want to connect with somebody. And I think, you know, especially frontline sales, you know, I mean, there's telephone sales, right? Well, I actually used to sell over the telephone, but you have the opportunity now to get in front of them, which is more powerful. You know, your biggest closes, you know, arguably are going to be more successful when you're in front of them, you know, closing. Well, we can't have that interaction right now, but you can virtually, and that's going to add a little bit higher of a percentage to your close ratio, because it's not just smiling, dialing. Now you're like there in front of them, and you're able to project that.
Well, and for an inside sales team, you might be still dialing, but once so let's just say you're making outbound calls, because these are not pre-scheduled calls and someone's not clicking on a link, whatever platform it is. So there's still, for inside sales, it's still outbound calls. And heck, even outside sales, it's still outbound calls to customers for growth, for sustaining. The second call is what could be this kind of meeting. Because the first call, we're practicing interruptive marketing. They weren't expecting. You've got to be able to call and give a reason that interruption was worthwhile. Here's the purpose of my call, and it's a difficult time for everybody, including yourself. And here's the reason I wanted to reach out to you. So we still practice the phone, but Chris, once you and I have a scheduled appointment and hey, I'll send you a link, then that's the call to be able to turn on your camera, and they can turn on theirs.
Yeah, and the link is that virtual call. Again,
Yep.
it's like you're right there in front of them, and that's essentially that's what we always like meeting face to face because it's a relationship build business. But when in doubt and we can't, we'll be talking through everything. When we get a close, it's like, okay, we'll send the contract, but I'm still here. Like, I'm not just going to throw it there and leave you there. I'm going to walk you through it as if I was sitting right in front of you, as if I were to hand you the pen. It's just you're signing digitally, but I'm there for you. We're going through each one, which even furthermore, you guys know, and obviously in sales, it's like when you're walking them through the contract in your last steps, like, okay, and the whole handing of the pen, right? There's that piece, but now we're just doing it digitally. So just kind of changing that up a little bit to where they're seeing you, contract is there, explaining it to them. I'm here with you the entire way, right up until you decide to do business with us.
Well, what we state is this: you can't literally be there to hold their hand, but you can virtually be there to hold their hand. And they really appreciate it when you do.
Mm-hmm. It's great. It's great stuff. So in the sales world, if there was, and I want to hear from both of you on this one, if there was one good piece of advice that you would give, a sales rep in this time, what would it be?
I think it's the same for both of us. And I think we pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Right? Pick up the phone. Don't be afraid of the camera.
Yeah, and I think just to piggyback off of that, it's be proactive. And so proactive, and it's the same as Stacia just said, but being proactive doesn't necessarily mean cold calls. Being proactive could be, here's my customer base. Let me make sure they're good personally. And then tomorrow's be proactive, but be proactive. And when this first hit, we were all in a reactive mode, including myself. But we have an opportunity now to go, okay, I've processed this thing. It's still very different, but be proactive. And when everyone else is reactive around you, you'll stand out if you're the one that's proactive and doing outbound.
So pick up the phone and be proactive. I love that. Thank you guys so much. Marisa, Stacia, I really appreciate all the insight you guys have given. And if people want to connect with you, how can they get in touch with you guys?
They can. There's a couple of ways. You can email us. Mine is stacia@cts-solutions.net, or they can call me. That would be awesome. 847-840-3480. Again, that's 847-840-3480.
Marisa Pensa, and website is methodsinmotion.com. So it's method, just like a method of doing business, methods in the letter N, and then motion.com. Phone number local here in Atlanta is 678-574-6072.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much for an amazing episode, and let's help our sales team, our sales force out there continue to sell and bring this economy back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye, Chris.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the episode. If you guys enjoyed it, show some love, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. Also, make sure you check out our exclusive CLevel group on Facebook.